I'll pull back the curtain here a little bit. That third season of Glamping, we made nearly $90,000. That was okay, this is serious. That's a nice segue into iGMS and what iGMS has done for me, because I feel like I could not do what I'm doing without some sort of property management software.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the iGMS podcast, where we help short-term rental hosts by highlighting other great hosts. I'm Santiago, the Senior Marketing Manager at iGMS and your podcast host. And if you don't know iGMS, it's the short-term rental software for hosts on the go. So we connect your Airbnb to all the other booking sites and put your business on autopilot. So check us out, and you can start your free trial below. But without further ado, we have a very special user and our very first iGMS podcast guest. It's the glamping guy, Jeub. He's based out of Colorado, and he's been scaling his glamping business for over half a decade. Now he uses his teaching background to help others build their own glamping business. You can find him at glampingguy.com and find his stays at Monument Glamping. So to start us off, how are you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great, Santiago. I'm proud. This is quite the honor to be the first guest in your iGMS podcast.
It's no mistake. After we did some user interviews, talking to you was great. I found it really inspiring, your whole story, where you are at now. And got me talking to my friends about glamping and the opportunities in that space. So I thought it was a no-brainer.
The sexiest asset class in real estate. It is very, very intriguing. So
yes, and I'm so happy to dive into that.
Okay.
And so why not get started to where it all gets started, right at the beginning.
Yes.
And maybe highlight where you are now and where it all started.
Well, I have a lot of adult children and who are all getting involved in the short-term rental market, and Dad was getting very jealous of them. This was back in 2019. I was a teacher, a public school teacher, and I had my summers off, and my wife and I decided to remodel our bedroom. So and to the studs. I mean, we took out everything and built a whole new bathroom and everything. So for that month and a half of remodel, I built a platform in my backyard and erected my hunting tent. It's a big wall tent. I'm a hunter here in Colorado, and so we like to go to the mountains every fall. But so we moved our master bedroom outdoors, and we loved it. It was just perfect. It was like we were camping here in my backyard. We have a beautiful piece of property, very, very blessed here. And after the remodel was over, I decided to throw it up on Airbnb to see what would happen, and we booked out the rest of the summer. And it was like, wow. My hunting gear that usually sits in my garage all year long until I go hunting every fall it turned out to make me $2,800. I thought I made off like a bandit. It was like, this is great. So that was 2019. 2020, we all know, was a COVID year. And I decided, with the help of my son, to build another structure. And we put up 2 tents. At first, I thought it was kind of just a fad that, glamping, I didn't even know what glamping was back in 2019. We threw up a second tent, and we booked out that rest of the summer, made $18,000. So it was like, wow, this is now turning into a side hustle that most teachers have side hustles out there. If you're a teacher out there, you have a side hustle. You're probably renting a room out or something like that. You're just making, to supplement your teaching habit, you're doing something on the side. So glamping started to become my little side hustle. I had a publishing company, so I was doing some other things, and I was an English teacher, so a writer, and published some books and things like that. But for the most part, glamping was becoming something. And you know what, Santiago, I really loved glamping. Hospitality was my wife and I really didn't even, we were always hospitable people, but now we were making money at it. This is a good thing. So the third year, we partnered with a neighbor. We got real serious. We put up 3 container homes, 3 tents, and then started making way more than my teaching salary ever. And I'll pull back the curtain here a little bit. That third season of glamping, we made nearly $90,000.
Wow!
And that was okay, this is serious. This is something that's not going away. It was 2021, and the rest is kind of history. And we went through a 4th season and a 5th. This last 5th season, we grossed just shy of $250,000. We have a second property. We are in the middle of developing. We're in the middle of pulling our permits together. We just got approved like last month for a special use property for 24 units, a bit beautiful Ponderosa pines and things like that. These container homes are there now, but we're going to really flesh it out. And then this property that I'm on, this is our homestead. We've been here for 24 years, but we are in the middle of a public hearing right now, so that we're going to be approved for a total of 12. We're approved for 8 right now, but we're going to 12. So I'll have to say, 2025, I'll have 25 units, 36. I can do the math here. 36 units, and managing all of that while trying to be hospitable and managing cleans and marketing and everything becomes overwhelming. But it isn't that impossible. I don't know. We could. That's my story. But that's a good, nice segue into iGMS and what iGMS has done for me, because I feel like I could not do what I'm doing without some sort of property management software. And iGMS just came along at the right time, where the budget, but I'm able to scale as I go, and as I grow, I get to know the software better and better, and it implements into my website well, and we just do a slam dunk job. I mean, iGMS is great. So here we are, Santiago, talking about how great Glamping is and how great iGMS is. So
yeah, these are a few of my favorite things. and jumping into that, so at what point did you jump into searching for a PMS system, and why did you choose iGMS?
Yeah, it was that third year when I went to 6 units. So managing 2 units, you could do that, and then that third year when I really started thinking, okay, now I'm transitioning from a land hacker. I got a unit on my property and I'm renting it out, to a business where this is, now I got a checking account. I've got, I've signed up with the Secretary of State and things like that. Now I'm starting to pull together the elements of a business. That's when a PMS system is like, okay, now I got to get serious. And honestly, opening it up to more than just Airbnb, where, integrating Vrbo. I think that was my next one, Vrbo. And then in the glamping world, there's Hip Camp, and there's Glamping Hub, and there's some that are specifically for outdoor hospitality. So my world of operating this and dealing with customers was getting more and more complex. I just couldn't do it with one. I couldn't I've got tents to fill. I've got people to talk to. I've got the work to do that is not sitting behind a computer and managing it all. So that's where the PMS system comes in. It just makes things run so much smoother, and that's really where that was my kind of tipping point the tipping point to go, okay, I'm actually going to start making good money on this, and building a business here. That was like, okay, I got to get serious and fork up a little bit of money to make it work and to get it implemented. But that money definitely pays off just on the time saved, and the ability to scale is just naturally there.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you have your own personal assistant by your side, nice and affordable, especially on the starting steps, which I find it, very interesting, specifically for the glamping industry, because your entry point is so low barrier. It's so natural. You started it for yourself to sleep outside, and then you started like, why not? Rent it out to others.
I've got some developer
so maybe can you
friends
highlight what are the big differences?
Oh, yeah. It's a big difference.
No, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I have some developer friends of mine who they build like neighborhoods, and they're multi-million-dollar industries, stuff kind of things, and they just look at me and go, I can't believe what you're doing, Jeub. I mean, here I've got all of this capital and banks and loans and stuff like that, and I throw out my tent in my yard and make a pretty good little pocket change there. So that's interesting how much of an easy entry there is into glamping. I mean, if you have a piece of property, if you're a private landowner, my glamping guy work is is about classes and education and teaching people how to do safe, legal, and profitable glamping operations on their private property. That's what I do. So I help landowners develop safe, legal, and profitable glamping operations on their private property. And it, what was I going to say? I was going to say it's just like we move very, very easily into that with the help of software. Maybe that's what I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say, Santiago. This conversation's going well, but I forgot where I was going.
You're just telling me how much better it is than your real estate friends who have to do all this development.
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, we were talking about it before we started recording, but I said glamping is the sexiest asset class in real estate.
Mm.
And it is. It's like it's got ingenuity to it. It's young. There's all sorts of different venues that people could do. Government has their head spinning, figuring out how to fit this round peg in their square hole of codes and things like that. Neighbors can't figure out what I'm doing. I spend a lot of time talking to my neighbors, trying to explain to them what I'm really trying to do. Some of them think it's awful. Some of them think it's cool as all get out, and they want a piece of the action. So there's so much ingenuity in glamping that I think it's the sexiest asset class. It's really just a lot of fun. With that comes problems, but it's the real joy in hospitality is what I love. And so that's what keeps me going is I have guests that have the time of their lives. People I have staycationers and vacationers. I live in northern El Paso County in Colorado, so Pikes Peak region of Colorado. It's a beautiful place. So we get a lot of vacationers, especially right now in June. It's a lot of people from out of state. They're coming up from Texas and California and the Midwest and things like that. But there's also staycationers. People are just busting out of Denver and Colorado Springs. They live in an apartment and work 9 to 5 all week long. And they just want to go fishing, and they just want to sit in their deck and drink a bottle of wine and or wake up early with a cup of coffee. And just they just need a place to do it. And that's glamping. That's where if a landowner wants to figure out how that's done, they should follow me at glampingguy.com. And watch my videos and take my classes and stuff, and I'll teach them how, because I'm walking the walk. I'm really not just talking the talk. I'm walking the walk. I'm doing it here in Colorado, and I just can't help myself because I'm a teacher. So I just teach people how to do it.
So what do you think makes glamping different from traditional short-term renting?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know why. If you look at traditional renting, a bigger picture, even outside of iGMS, people like buy a second home and then they rent it out to a long-term renter, and they might make a little bit of money to maybe cover the mortgage, and then that's about it. And that's traditional renting. The short-term rental market kind of blew open a good dozen years ago by that wonderful thing called Airbnb, and we all started getting into short-term renting, and that I honestly don't think why people do traditional renting anymore, because there's so much more to be made. You can make probably about twice as much on a rental so that's that second home you buy. If you do a short-term rental, you're making twice as much off the top than in a traditional rental. Now, glamping kind of blows it out of the water, I think, because that same second home, you throw a few tents up in the backyard, you've obviously just quadrupled your rental ability, and people will pay for tents in the backyard, so that they will. It's like adding a door to the property. So you're if you look at it, you got your traditional rentals, and then you got your short-term rentals, then you got glamping up as far as one property goes. What I've turned my property into is really 12 doors on my property here, and the other property I got 24 doors. That's like a little hotel, and that, I mean, granted, it brings a whole bunch of other problems. When you get that big, you have to jump through hoops that the government puts in front of you. You have more taxes, you have more problems, you have more customers, but it's worth it. I mean, it's really fun, but it's just like I don't understand why everyone's not doing glamping. I was like, why?
Well, it got me thinking, right? So I live in a house here.
See? The crank starts turning, going.
It starts turning.
How can I get into glamping?
It got me thinking. I live in a house, but I can see my neighbors from this house. They're like maybe 3 meters away, and then on the other side, another 3 meters away. But I'm like, is this the spot, or should I look into spots slightly outside the city? What is I live in a city, Winnipeg, Canada. So that's like, what are the things to look for when you're first starting out for your first like tent or glamping spot?
Yeah, or the first property. A lot of my students and the people I consult with are people who kind of they get it. They understand. Oh yeah, glamping's a cool thing. I want to get into it. But what is kind of the perfect property? For one, there's no perfect property. Every property will have its limitations. It might not be zoned very well. It might be a little clunky. But I don't see many properties that doesn't have some sort of pathway to glamping, other than maybe you're in the middle of the city and you're 5 meters away from your neighbors. Maybe that's not the ideal property. But what about house hacking, or the same concept that you've got your asset, your property, whether it's a townhome or naked country out in the middle of nowhere. There and everything in between. I counsel people to find out what jurisdiction you're in. Jurisdiction is kind of the buzz term. Are you in a county? Are you in unincorporated county? Are you in a township or a municipality or an HOA or something like that? Usually, when you find out what jurisdiction you're in, every jurisdiction has some sort of comprehensive plan or master plan or something like that, where they say, "Hey, we're going to tag these little areas in the jurisdiction for what can be developed." And mostly it's residential or it's commercial or anything in between. But in the subset of residential, there's a whole list of different things that you can do on the property. And in that, most areas have, especially touristy areas like where I'm at, have some sort of economic or tourism type of desire that they want to encourage landowners to do something fun. Do a pumpkin patch, or do a horse riding escapade, or I've got a pumpkin patch right up the road, another one on the other side of town. They're aggertainment. Yeah, aggertainment is the thing. In my jurisdiction, I found that recreation camp is a thing that the county encourages landowners like me to build. So I latched onto that. I said, okay, what is glamping? It's a recreation camp, and that's what I say to neighbors, to businesses, to enforcement officers and planning. All the floodplain guy. There's a floodplain guy in my area. I have to talk with him and figure out what I'm doing is not harming the environment and stuff. So there's all sorts of details that justifies my special use of my property. So that's the kind of talk that new landowners should do, is to find these properties where there's a pathway to glamping. And once you figure out that pathway, then you have to start doing it. And that's what Glamping Guy is all about. I'm helping landowners develop those properties to be safe, legal, and profitable.
Wow.
The safe is more like building codes and things like that. You got to build structures that don't fall apart. You want your guests to be safe, and that's the whole idea of building codes. But that legality is more in line of what's permitted in your area. I was really lucky enough, Santiago, to be living on a piece of property where it was permitted, and not to say that it's not complicated. There's still a lot to do that a lot of hoops I had to jump through, but at least there was a pathway for it. If you don't have a piece of property, you're actually in a better spot, because you can find that property and it takes some work. You got to get online and figure out what the master plan is and all that stuff that I just mentioned. But people can buy it, and then once they buy that property and they get permitted, and they, like right now, I've got a second property that's permitted for 24 units right now. Now we don't have it built out yet, but that's what's going to consume the next year of our lives, is building like the best property in the Pine Peak region that's going to crush it. And that's what I'm just excited about getting to the development aids, because that's us playing in our sandbox and making this awesome venue with units. So.
And that's great to hear. So you're prioritizing the jurisdiction, the laws, finding a good piece of property if you don't have one already that fits those jurisdictions, I'm curious, where does location come into play? Do you
Yeah.
want the first property to be within driving distance? Does it matter, or do you want to optimize for the most touristy spot possible? What does that look like?
Yeah. For me, we're really close to a lot of tourism. It's not like the best tourism in the world. I mean, in the glamping community, if you could get close to a national park, that's probably the best. Like if you're
Yeah.
but it's becoming saturated. If you go out, right outside the Appalachian Mountains and or the no Smoky Mountains is
Yeah.
really big, or Rocky Mountain National Park has a lot of glamping up there too. So, but that's a good 2 hours away from me, so it's not really that close. But Pikes Peak region is still really beautiful. And I was just talking one of my students. I visited her on the way back from Tennessee, and I was doing stuff out in Tennessee, but I visited her in Southern Illinois. She's just dry bones Southern Illinois. There's nothing there, and she was kind of okay. This is a good story.
Yeah.
She was kind of complaining that she lives out in the boonies, so she can't do a glamping operation out there. And I visited her property. So this is what she's got. She's got this old cabin. It's run down. Needs to be fixed up. She doesn't live in the cabin. She lives in town that's 5 minutes away. But she has a private lake. We drove in, and a bunch of wild turkeys were walking through it. A couple white-tailed deer jumped off into the weeds, and the hawk was flying around. And she's got these big, huge trees and stuff. And she likes to mow the lawn. Her husband fishes all day long while she's kind of putzing around. She got all these plans and everything, but she's like, but I'm out in the boonies. No one's going to do it. She's an hour and a half away from St. Louis. And I went, oh, there's a lot of salt of the earth people in St. Louis who work 9 to 5 all week. And what do they live for? Fishing on the weekends. I said, you could book out these fishermen and just you could catch crappies all day long out of your private fishing lake. You got a gold mine here. And people will travel an hour and a half to spend the weekend out at your glamping operation. But it was kind of a mentality that I have to be next to a national park. No, you don't. You can be. In fact, it wasn't too far from her. It was on the Missouri side of where she's at geographically. This was several years ago, but my kids and I were traveling. Two of my sons and I were traveling across country. And we found a teepee to stay at, and it was kind of out in the boonies, but it was great. It was great, and yeah, granted, it's not the $400 a night right outside of Rocky Mountain National Park, but so what? It was still a wonderful stay. It was right on our route of where we were traveling at the time, and that's I encourage my students not to sell themselves short and say, I don't have the perfect property like the glamping guy. Well, the glamping guy didn't have a perfect property too. We made it work. That's what I said earlier. We don't have a perfect property. Nobody has a perfect property. If you wait for that perfect property, you'll never get your property. Once you have it, then you start. It's like you're forming a sculpture here. You get into the art of glamping and turn your property into a beautiful venue for people. And people will pay big money for it, and they will travel to come and stay at your place.
That's fantastic. So I think it's leading into my next question, which I'm really curious about, is what do people get wrong about the glamping industry?
Okay. What do people get wrong about the glamping industry? Well, maybe it's really easy to get caught up in the money. There's a lot of margin in glamping. I mean, I've shared earlier about my hunting tent making $2,800. It was like, wow, this is great. So it is somewhat alluring to go after that money. There is a lot of margin and there's a lot of money in glamping, but there's also a lot of work. And I do have to manage customers and communications, talk with people. I mean, I have to set up a glamping experience for people. It's really more about the experience. It's experiential accommodations is what glamping is. It's not just heads on beds. It's they are there for the nature of it and the joy of being outdoors or semi-outdoors anyway. And that's people are kind of surprised that, this is a lot of work. Now it's fun work. I think it's fun. But if you genuinely hate people, I don't think you should get into glamping. do a short-term rental or over there in a townhome or something because then you don't have to communicate with people. But
Hmm.
I truly enjoy getting to know some of my glampers, and we respect their privacy and their alone time. One of the things that we offer for money is a wine tasting. We make our own wine on our property. Yeah, so we're kind of wine gurus, and we will set up a wine tasting on their decks, and those have been some of our most enjoyable connection times with our guests. Most of them just come, they do their thing, they have a good time. We got hot tubs and things like that, so they can a lot of romantic getaways are on our property. But every once in a while they say, "Hey, come on down and get to know us," and we drink wine for an hour, and then they stumble into their tents and we walk up to our house. That's a lot of evenings at Monument Glamping.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of that's why we do it. But it's after a
Hmm.
whole days of work of managing cleaners and well, that's really where iGMS comes in. They got the cleaning management and the communications too, the inbox that we're able to communicate with them, whether they rent through Airbnb or Verbo or whatever. They're able to get our communications, and there's no surprises that they have. We try to minimize the problems that arise when people just aren't communicated with.
And you touched on you have some romantic getaways that come and visit the properties.
Yeah.
What does the range of people that rent out glamping spots, or what do your guests typically look like?
Yeah, most of our guests, and that's basically just what we've set up, is our romantic getaways. There's a nice queen size bed, and there's a fireplace, and we have these trough tubs or bathtubs experiences. So, and we sell some extras, and one of them is called the romantic getaway, where we'll throw out some fake rose petals and a bottle of wine, and make it kind of this surprise, for
Hmm.
one person buying it for the other. And we have like a package that you can buy to enhance your water experience that has like a bathrobe and some bubble bath and some underwater lights and stuff like that. There's some things that you can do to enhance your experience. And also, I also mentioned the wine tasting, so
Hmm.
they don't have to sit on the deck with us. We can just give them a couple bottles of wine, and then they can do their own thing. But the that's really our what would you call it? Like our avatar. That's our ideal customer is
Hmm.
the husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, anniversary, whatever. They're just there to experience the outdoors together. It's a romantic getaway. And that's what it is. So we get a lot of people. We've had proposals on our property. We've had
Aw.
anniversaries. A lot of people come through on their anniversary or their honeymoon, and they're gonna go glamping, and they're like, "Hey," and then
Aw.
they that's a lot of our people are
Hmm.
that way. So
That's exactly the first, I think, contact I've had with a glamping space
mhm.
here where I am in Canada, was my friend. He's long distance relationship. His girlfriend came into town, and that's the first thing they did. They got a glamping spot, like super nice, super cute,
Nice.
quaint, and it's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
that makes sense. And then it's like, wait a second, this is a tent, and they're charging hotel prices. I'm
I
like,
know, I
I
know.
started making like,
Like I said, why isn't
like, wait a
everybody getting
second.
into glamping? This is crazy when you think about it.
And then, like, the property's probably cheaper because it's like out of town. It's not like in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
Things like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, starts turning the gears of like, this is potentially a really really good opportunity.
Yeah.
Low barrier of entry as a side hustle, and then going into more
Yeah.
expanding into a full scale 6 figure 7 figure business.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And what has been the most surprising part? And you've been doing this for 5 years. What's been like one of the most surprising things in your glamping journey?
I would say the surprising thing was how much we loved it.
Mm.
At first it is the money that kind of drags you into it. It's like, hey, like I said before, it was my kids who were getting into Airbnb. Actually, like they were buying properties and renting
Ah.
them out, townhomes and things like that. They weren't doing glamping. Dad did glamping. I was the one who decided to do that, and then once I did it, they're like, we should be doing glamping too. So that was the surprising thing was how much we really love people.
Hmm.
We are people. I'm actually kind of an introvert. I don't like to go out and party all night long and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
genuinely getting to know people, I enjoy, and so does my wife. We just enjoy hosting people at our property. So that was that was a surprising thing. It was all, I was always a teacher, and Wendy was always just a mom, and we just we're a family. We're a big family.
Oh,
So but hospitality wasn't even on a radar. I had a business. I still do have a business degree, and a teaching degree. So I have an MBA. So business is something that's on my mind, and I like to do business. A publishing company was something I'd had.
mhm.
Hospitality, I mean, I didn't even know it was a. I mean, I hardly knew it was a thing, but it was. But it was, so that was a surprise that I really enjoyed doing this.
That's beautiful. That's great to come in for the money, stay because you like it, and then also because you keep making the money.
Right. Yeah, the money's nice. And then and there's an American Glamping Association. There's
Mhm.
there's an International Glamping Association. So there are, and they're all about hospitality, experiential experiences and accommodations. So there's a lot of experts out there that are hospitality experts. Those are the people that I've really, because I'm not educated in hospitality. I like it, but I'm really not. I might not be that good at it. That's where I really had to dial into how to communicate with people. I was already a speech coach, so I kind of understood the ideas of persuade. A debate coach too, so the elements of persuasion was very important to me in negotiations and all that. But as far as meeting expectations for my guests and exceeding expectations, kind of that under promise and over deliver idea, was a lot of what I needed to learn. I spent a lot of time in iGMS. In fact, this morning I spent some time uh, redoing my templates. That's one of the things iGMS has that other PMS systems don't, is the idea to have templates, automated templates that send out automatically at certain points of the communication timeline with the customer. That can be the strategy level of that. I've literally spent hours thinking through just the right word, just the right phrase to like welcome the guest, or they submit an inquiry. I want a message to go out with them immediately. I don't want, not when I wake up in the morning or when I get done doing something busy. I want them to have one immediately, and that's the PMS power, that they are able to get this well-crafted message written by the glamping guy or written by the host of the Monument Glamping, so that they know, oh, I'm being taken care of. This is a great experience for me that it exceeds the experience that a hotel will give me, or even a campground. This is something that, I'm going on someone's private property and in their little space that they've made for me to have a good time. That to me is surprising how much that's how fun that is.
So what are you kind of like tweaking now that you've been in the game for
Oh,
4 or 5 years, and your messaging and your strategy has
okay.
changed?
Well, I'll zero in on very key specific here. So I went from 1 to 2 messages that the person who signs up for my glamping site gets immediately. Okay, it used to be 1, but the 1 was just too long. So the first one that goes out is really the metadata that goes out. It's all the key components. So it's an automation, but it drags like the first name, last name, the registration number, the address, the venue name, all that stuff, kind of bullet list, saying, hey, this is
Nice.
what please review it, make sure everything's right, let us know if it's not, and then another email will follow with some experiential add-ons you might add on to. That used to be up there, and then the list of add-ons. Then they immediately get a second email that says, hey, these are the list of add-ons. And the reason we did that was because not every venue offers like the water experience. So why would the ones down at the creek already have a water experience, but they don't need a tub of towels. They're just down there, but well, maybe they do. But anyway, the idea is that it's not a tub with bubbles and stuff like that. So we're crafting that message to be a little bit more unique, to lead to a better selling proposition. And now they've got this list of stuff that they can add on. It's not a lot. It's like 6 or 8 things, but they have a list of things that they can consider to spend more money on, and that I think is going to lead to more sales. So they get those 2 emails, boom, boom, and then they get the morning of their check-in, they get more details like their code for their lock and things like that, and directions right to the base of their tent, that kind of thing. That kind of messaging, I call them audits that I go through. I don't just set it up once and forget about it. I mean, it's just every couple months, few months, or like getting ready for the busy season, I have to go through an audit, read through them all again, and edit them like an editor. And I do it right inside of iGMS. I don't do it in a word processing program and then pull it in. It's like right there in front of iGMS going, okay, because I'm constantly thinking of the user experience along with the development responsibility, and that takes some focus, and iGMS just does it all for you. I can't imagine going through all the different what do you call them, like the Airbnb, those would be OTAs,
Yes,
online travel agents,
all the booking sites, like Airbnb, Vrbo. And I love that, especially because you can get started easy and like do it all manually, but also the prospect of continually optimizing to not only get more income, but also to improve the guest experience continually. So it could be through those add-ons. Now you're getting more margins and better better income, but also the guests are getting a more complete experience. And I think that's what's really cool. You can start off simple and then just keep building up from there.
Yep.
And what do you think has changed about the glamping industry over the years?
Things are getting more dialed in. Well, what's changed in the glamping? People know about glamping now. When I started in 2019, I swear everybody who came, they would see my tent on Airbnb or something, and then they would think, oh, that sounds kind of fun. Let's just do that. And then they arrive, and then I'm talking all about glamping. They're like, what's glamping? So I spent a lot of time talking to guests about what glamping was. And then I would have to talk to neighbors about what glamping was. And the planning department looked at me like I had 3 heads when I said glamping. And they're like, that's the kind of the world we lived in just 5 years ago. Now I don't have to do any explaining. I mean, people get it right away. Oh yeah, you're putting a tent up in your yard and renting it out. Okay, I get it. That's what's changed. And with that are the expectations, I suppose. People are expecting more of an experience when they go glamping. They're not just expecting a camping experience out there. In fact, I go through a whole lesson in one of my classes about how glamping is not as closely related to camping as you think. That, we have beds in our tents. We have mattresses. We have flushing toilets. We have showers and hot tubs. That's not sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. That's way so far removed from that. So really, we are more into glamorous outdoor hospitality. That's what we're into. We are more like a plush resort than a campground. So that's what's different, and people are catching on to that. I stay very closely associated with the American Glamping Association and kind of the gurus of the outdoor hospitality. KOA, they do a lot of studies. That's the Campgrounds of America, and they do a lot of studies that are very, very helpful to glamping developers. And so I look at, if I'm looking at a campground operation, if I have the choice to really model a campground versus a high-end resort, I'll choose the high-end resort. That's more like what my customers are looking for, and I want to model what that customer experience. The campground experience is, I get some people who are really just looking. I don't really, honestly. They're all looking for the glamorous camping. Even the hip camp. A hip camp is a unique OTA because it's really geared toward people who have their own gear and they're showing up with their own tents and their own trailers and stuff. But that's not the people I'm aiming for. You don't even have to have your own gear. Just, leave your gear at home. Just show up with your adult beverages and food, and you're good. I've got everything else set up for you. and that's the glamping experience. So it is more like a hotel experience than it is a campground.
Yeah, that sounds very luxurious, very
Mhm.
great. I actually didn't even know that you had like full on like running water or
Yeah,
toilets or things like that within your stays.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Some
and,
of them are, and some of them aren't. So that's where it gets nuanced. But there's
mhm.
some off-grid experiences, and that's fine for some people. There's some on-grid experiences that some people demand. They won't show up at a campground without a flushing toilet. That's
Mm.
but so that leads into why I have two pages. Right? Like I mentioned, that I'm actually communicating to two different kinds of people, and what their expectations are. That's
That
another
makes a
thing
lot
that
of
iGMS
sense.
can do is actually you can still automate. You don't have to automate and say all properties get this automation. You can
Hmm.
automate it to specific properties, specific OTAs, channels you call them, and you could really dial in to that perfect message for anybody who rents in that particular unit. That that's the power of iGMS.
And then, so what people might not be aware about is that you're referencing also your direct bookings. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Direct bookings are
So
big. Yeah.
maybe tell everyone maybe a little bit about direct bookings and how you got into it, how you build your site, and the importance of it versus using
Yeah.
Airbnb or Verbo or these other OTA platforms.
Yeah, once I made that move to actually become a business, that's when direct bookings became more important to me because I'm into branding.
Mm-hmm.
I want people visiting my website, not their website. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to communicate and get a marketing email list and things like that. There's all sorts. Once you become a business and you're not just renting out your room, all that stuff becomes very, very important to you. And you start to realize the OTAs are actually siphoning all that from you,
Yeah.
and they're pulling your customers away from you. They're not returning to you because they really don't care about you. They're a different group of people. The people you want more loyal customers as a real glamping business. So it was about 3 years ago that I really started turning on that direct booking option in iGMS and building a website and embedding the link codes so that they're using iGMS as a tool to register, but it's the direct booking in iGMS. And then that just opens up the door for a more personable customer experience or customer relation experience for me, and I'm able to treat them better. So so that's direct bookings are really important, and I've heard there's some books out there about the importance of direct bookings, and I really believe in them. Read a couple to prepare for this, but the ideal place I think is 70% direct
Wow.
bookings and 30% other OTAs. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm at 40, 50%. But when I
Wow.
started, it was like 2%. It's like I was getting no direct bookings. And so it was all, and I think there were a couple experiences where the OTAs really ticked me off. I mean, there was like, there was some dispute with a guest. Oh yeah, I had, it was, here, this is a funny story, but I had a
Hmm.
dog tear open one of my tents.
Oh
It was like
wow.
blatantly that the dog pushed open the tent. It wasn't like a tear in the canvas, but the zipper was all busted up and stuff. And I tried to deal with the customer. The customer was like, "F you," said my dog
Yeah.
didn't do that. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I brought it up with the OTA, and they sided with them. And I was like, I had pictures and everything. I was like, you're just kidding me. So it was like all of a sudden I was feeling like I'm really not a customer with the OTA. I'm their revenue stream, and their customer is the guest. I don't know. The OTAs are in a peculiar situation because they're catering to a customer and a host. And when it comes to who's lying, they they will likely side with the guest. And uh,
Yeah.
and that was one of those situations where it was like I felt like I got the short end of the stick. That wouldn't have happened with a direct booking. I mean, it was just
Hmm.
like a direct booking was like, hey, you ruined my tent. It would have moved closer to a mitigation issue that would have come up with a better resolution, then you're on your own. Fix your own dumb tent. And it's like, man, that left me kind of even more motivated to move towards a direct booking platform. And that's really what I have 100%. So I don't even have Airbnb or Vrbo or anything on my website. It's all direct booking. I still list my properties on the OTAs, but maybe someday I'll be totally off the OTAs. Who knows? But right now the OTAs do me good service. But I'm just a number to them. So I got to keep that in mind.
100%. Yeah, I got recently learning about during COVID how they favored guests, gave them refunds and things like that. Talking about Airbnb specifically, and how people would just are looking to hosts particularly are looking to diversify more between OTAs and then have their direct bookings. But 40%. I'm talking to a lot of guests. That's really high. Yeah. That's really high, and a lot of guests a lot of hosts are really curious on how to get their direct bookings up. Is there any quick tips or things you would suggest for them to focus on?
Here's a few that just come to mind. Some quick tips to help get off of the OTA line. Take the OTAs off your website. Just go direct bookings on your website. Just depend on the OTAs for their marketing, but for your marketing, you don't even link to. I used to have all the different OTAs that I offer on my website, and I don't do that anymore. It's just direct bookings, totally 100%. I do get kind of clever with my messaging to my guests. I will put my signature. I put Chris Jeub at Monument Glamping. So the @ Monument Glamping. It's not a direct link. They don't let you do a direct link. So I can't put monumentglamping.com, but I could put at Monument Glamping. And then when the guests read that, it's like this mental cue. It's like, oh, he's got marketing beyond the head in the bed or the tent in the yard. So they typically will do a search for Monument Glamping, and then they find out, I get some perks with direct bookings. Oh, maybe next time I come here, I'm going to direct book, which has happened a lot. People start with Airbnb, and then the next time I notice that, you're direct booking. Well, yeah, I get a free bottle of wine when I direct book. Well, yeah, you do. So come on board. So that's those kinds of incentives. I'm trying to think what else I do. I link people to my website a lot, and on all my literature that I have, physical literature in the tent, like a little business card, it all goes to Monument Glamping. It doesn't go to Airbnb. It goes to Monument Glamping. And whatever chance I get when I'm talking to somebody, in the community or through the Chamber of Commerce or something like that, I'm always saying, direct book with me, because that's always better.
That's great. Yeah, the combination of first targeting the return guests, so making sure that they know about your website and using that, as well as having perks for direct bookings.
Yeah.
And then that's what you're also constantly promoting.
It is scary to think when you're hosting and you're getting all your money from Airbnb, which is the gorilla in the room. It is a bit scary to think, I can't cut this line and just go straight direct booking. You don't have to. But where you can cut the line, and that's in your literature marketing, your direct to customer marketing, and try to weave it in the best you can with when you're talking through Airbnb without breaking their rules. You can't put the whole go offline, cancel with Airbnb and direct book with me. You can't do that. They'll ding you for it and ban you. But what you can do is saying, hey, next time visit us at Monument Glamping website.
Yes.
One of the messages I just got done finishing, Wendy and I talked about it because it was like strategic, but it was I think it was ordering extras. That's what I do. So that second page that I explained earlier, the whole with the enhancements that they can order, I tell them, if you visit our site, these enhancements are under the drop-down menu. Okay, so that's all I say. So I don't say go to monumentglamping.com. I tell them that, when you visit our site, you will see this. Well, what does that do? It's like there might not be a hyperlink, so it's not that easy. But they're like, they have a website. If I want to order a propane tank, I better go to their website and figure this out. And then they end up there.
Smart. I think those dialing in those different little things I think becomes so important.
Yeah.
And just getting that knowledge from someone that really knows their stuff.
Yeah.
I have one more general question, and then we can kind of go into your courses. But I want to know, what is one of the craziest guest stories you've had?
The craziest guest stories. Oh man, I can go on. Well, just last night I had somebody show up, and they booked through Airbnb. Okay, so and this is in the middle of the week, so it's like we usually have some vacancies and stuff, and they had 3 dogs, and we didn't have any record of dogs.
Oh.
And then they were down to the creek, and they were there. And the dogs are kind of crazy; they were running all over the place. So I had to kind of go down there and not chew them out, but just say, "Oh, I noticed I didn't notice dogs on your list." Oh yeah, and we were able to actually go back to the communications and figure out, like, way back at the beginning they asked about dogs, but that was as far as it went. They didn't pay for their dogs. We charged for a dog, but so there was just a lack of communication. It wasn't necessarily them showing up with dogs that weren't allowed. So it was a real easy to kind of, okay, here's the link to pay and no big deal, and please keep them on a leash. We've broken up. There was one party, so they showed up ready to party.
I see. Speakers and all. You're like, wait a second, what's going on here?
Jam out and make it an outdoor experience to remember. And
it's like Coachella, new Coachella 2.0. It's like, not in my backyard.
No, that wasn't that bad. But they were definitely assembling friends and having a bigger group than what was registered. That's a nice thing about glamping, and this has calmed the nerves of some of my neighbors, because we're right there on the property. I mean, it's like you can't do what the horror story of all these people showing up with their cars and making a concert out in your yard. That doesn't really happen very easily. We were really quickly diffused the situation, walked down to the fire and said, "Hey, we didn't know about all these guests," and then that diffused the situation, and then it did not turn into a party. So that's just something that kind of comes with the territory when you invite guests on the property, that some of them will want to do things that just aren't allowed, and for good reasons. But crazy. What other crazies? We've had people do drone things out. There was some wedding pictures and things like that are just cool.
Oh, that's crazy. Nice.
Yeah. So
proposals. You had proposals on your property?
Proposals. Yep.
That's
I
beautiful.
walked in on a proposal once. I was like, the guest showed up, and we sometimes, if we can, we'll go down and say hi and ask them if they have any questions. And I literally, he had just finished proposing on the deck.
Wow.
And I walked up asking them if they want more propane. I mean, it was kind of awkward, but they were flying high.
It's a wedding gift.
So that's kind of those are good moments. Those are fun.
Wow, that's beautiful. And one thing that came to mind, and actually even talking to our CEO, is this a good model to get started too? I was curious about this. Going up to other people with good properties that you think would be good, and ask them, can I rent your property out for a glamping spot? Is that a good way to start, or what's your insight on that?
Yeah, that to me is great. In fact, one of the there's a guru out there named Rob Avasolo who's I'm on a podcast. Yeah, thanks. My son just came in and wanted to talk. But anyway,
get him to join in. Tell him he can talk about his Airbnb stuff.
Talk to the iGMS crew. He actually put an ad. Well, this is way back in the. I don't know if it'll work anymore, but he put an ad in Facebook and just said, "Hey, I'm looking for property to put a glamping operation on there." I don't even think it was before even glamping was a word. So I would like to rent out property, and he got some takers and ended up putting up a glamping operation somewhere somehow. That I just remember that kind of explanation. So people. To tell you the truth, I have 2 properties right now, but I'm in talks with 2 other landowners right now, and I might end up acquiring more property, or working out some sort of deal, because those properties are perfect for glamping. They might not work out for housing developments like they really want it to, and so who knows where this will go? Maybe Jeub, the glamping guy, is going to swap up that property and make Monument Glamping 3 somewhere in the area. And so those kinds of discussions just happen when you're the glamping guy in the area. And, and it's not hard to do some places where you run a successful glamping operation. Guess who starts talking about you? All the realtors, all the business people, the Chamber of Commerce thinks you're the coolest person in town. And, the banks start talking about you. They say, oh, there's a cool glamping operation going on over here. Neat. How can I get in on their radar? And that leads to discussions that that's what's happening to me anyway. And it's fun. And the opportunity opens up to where I can open up a third glamping operation. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I mean, I'm making it sound really easy. There's a lot of work, a lot of decisions to be made, but that's the power of getting on behind something that the market is just yearning for more. This is a screaming hot market right now, and instead of waiting for this market to come and go like a ship passing in the night, I'm jumping on and making it work.
It's crazy the amount of success you've had in the past, almost 5 years without guidance.
Yeah.
So tying into what users can expect or people interested in the glamping industry can expect with some of your courses and the guidance that you can provide. Both leveraging your teaching experience. Now you have an MBA as well, so your business experience. So it's no surprise that you have all this success. But what can someone starting off that doesn't know much
it's no surprise that I'm actually doing stuff that teach, because I am a teacher. We established that. But it was a few years into this where I started thinking, I feel like I'm hiding this under a bushel. I mean, it's like I've got this golden nugget, and I'm like hiding it from everybody, the pearl. And it's like I need to share it with the world in some way, somehow. I share it with my glamping operation, of course, but I needed to teach other landowners how to do it themselves. So my subtitle is helping landowners develop safe, legal, and profitable glamping operations on their private property. That has led to so many conversations with people who have inherited land, don't really know what to do with it, but they're sure paying the taxes every year on it. People who have family members who might have some property somewhere. People who kind of want to get into the real estate business, but they don't want to spend $1 million on a piece of property, but they might have some land somewhere that's much, much less money that they could do something like this. I think once the creative juices get flowing, they can figure it out. They just need guidance on how to do it, because all of the codes, the jurisdictions, the laws, the regulations, as well as the how-tos, the structures, the what else? There's just so much to the world of glamping that I created courses that I wished I had 5 years ago when I started. If I had a glamping guy 5 years ago, I would have, take my money. I'm ready to go, because I know this can work. I just don't know how it can work, and I just need someone to answer my questions. So that's my student list right now. And I came out at the beginning of this year with a course called Easy Entry to a Glamping Business. It's almost free. It's only $37, and I have it on my website right now. I think when we release this, we talked about the dates when we release, but it's when we release it, it'll be right. This is when it's done. I only teach it a few times a year. I've taught it twice already. This is my third time, so I call it my summer semester. And I walk you through 4 simple videos that make it easy to get involved. And it kind of puts it all into perspective of going, okay, now I've got my brain around this opportunity that I just know is there. I just need those pieces put into place. The first video is really about my story. I shared a lot about it here in this podcast, but I go deeper into it and really the details of what that story was like, including getting in trouble. I got in a lot of trouble, Santiago. I had some neighbors who were really giving me a hard time, and I had the government giving me issues of violations and things like that. So there were a lot of things I had to learn. I had to learn the hard way too. But I feel like I'm on the other end of that spectrum going, it wasn't impossible. It was very possible. I just needed to know. I wish, like I said, I wish I had a glamping guy that showed me the ropes and how to do it right. and then I go into structures and things like that, kind of the sexy part of the glamping world, and the neat tents and all that. But then also I go through a full business plan, and the third video that I put out is really that whole list of things, just a to-do list of what you got to do to make glamping happen. I don't really hold anything back. It's all there. And then the fourth one is really the launch into the world of glamping. It introduces you to more of a mastermind group that I run and operate, of glamping operators from all over the country. I actually have one from Thailand that jumped on this last spring, and we go through the rigmarole of what needs to happen to make their glamping operation successful.
That's fantastic. And then you have the $37 course, and then you have more of this mastermind. And when's that starting?
Right after this $37 course, then it goes into the larger 8 weeks to launch course, where within 8 weeks, then you get these are longer videos, like 45-minute videos each week. There is I call it a mastermind. If people know what a mastermind is, it's kind of like I call it group coaching, where we get onto a weekly meeting every week. We really dial into the details that everybody has. And it's a small group. It's not big. The first session I had 10 students. This last spring I had 5. Who knows how many I'll have this summer. That's going to come up in July and August is when I teach that course. And then there's the American Glamping Association's conference up in Arvada, which is only an hour away from me in Colorado, and that comes this October. And my students are all going to be staying on my property, so it's going to be kind of fun that they're going to be going to the bigger Glamping Association expo, where literally there's a couple thousand people who show up there, all glamping operators and vendors and things like that. It's really something else. But that's all tied into the bigger mastermind that I mentioned. That a mastermind is a group of people that's when they're serious. You know, you're actually, the money's on the line. You know, your reputation's on the line. You're doing that. You are a glamping operator, and that's where the community of a mastermind is powerful. Because we're not making the mistakes that someone who's doing a solo all by themselves out in the wilderness. That's where people make mistakes. And costly mistakes. Really, they, I'm trying to think of. Well, actually, I stopped and visited one of my students in Illinois. I think I mentioned Illinois. Did we mention that in this conversation? Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Southern Illinois? From St. Louis, like the one close to St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, I stopped at her house. Well, she was one of my students, so she was just not off the beaten path too much. And I got to really walk her property and came up with some great ideas for her. So that's the kind of thing that I'm building. I'm building a little tribe, Santiago, a tribe of glamping operators who are crushing it in this exciting world of glamping. And I just want to build a bigger and better and more professional tribe. Then I don't think anybody else is out there doing it. So if glamping's for you, I hope to see you on glampingguy.com. And people can just sign up for my email too. Just sign up so that we can start the conversation at least, and get you the resources that you need to develop that dream of glamping.
I love that so much. I love the combination of getting a community, getting the guidance, putting it into a program, an 8-week program. So you have all the support you need. You have the examples side by side to help you out. Make sure you don't fall into any pitfalls, and take advantage of this crazy opportunity that's going really well right now.
Thank you.
So you can. Where can people find you? Maybe go over that again, and then I'll put the links down below as well.
Yes. Okay, so if you want to just model what I do, go to monumentglamping.com and just see what I'm doing. Okay, those are my tents, and those are my container homes and stuff. And that'll grow as I grow my properties here in Monument, Colorado. But if you want to get a piece of the action, then go to glampingguy.com. That is my educational website. And like I said before, depending on when people listen to podcasts, they could be listening to it in the future. I might have classes open, I might not. I kind of open them and close them throughout the year as I'm able to teach them. Because boy, when I open them up, I gather in my hens. I'm a mother hen trying to pull my chickens together and teach them how to do this well. So that's and then once I I close it off, really focus on my students, like a good teacher would. So that's what I do throughout the year. So, but get on board with that. Get your email in so that you know the opportunity next time it comes around, and we're able to get you the information you need to host your glamping operation on your private property.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Chris.
You bet.
Sharing so much valuable information and great stories. Everyone knows where to find you as well. And thank you for being part of the first iGMS podcast.
I am pumped. And go iGMS. I'm a big believer in iGMS.
Yes, you can find iGMS as well, igms.com, and start your free trial today. I'm Santiago. This has been the iGMS podcast, and this has been the podcast with the glamping guy, Chris Jeub.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.